Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Play Metroid Fusion. Last time we went through Sector 3 and got a head start on Sector 6, and today we're going to get the Varia Suit and see what to do from there. So, once again, we're going to play careful with these blocks here to make sure we don't let any... Oh yeah, this is why we play it slow. There we go. I do like that you can kind of break the blocks, like, you know, one by one, to kind of see whether or not there's going to be an X-Parasite within them. And just, you know, play it safe. Like anybody else would do, right? Oh. Oh. Well, get back here with my Varia Suit, you fucker! Oh! Okay, so apparently X-Parasites can absorb stuff from the data stations. That's interesting. Alright, so basically for this fight, this one's kind of weird because instead of using missiles, you actually have to use charge shots for this thing. Because missiles otherwise don't work on them for whatever strange reason. And just wait for them to come by, blast them with a charge shot. Not much else to it than that. Pretty simple boss fight. It's just kind of there for the what the fuck factor, I suppose. Come on. I never really found Core X boss fights all that interesting, to be honest. Here we are. Varia Suit effect recovered. Survive extreme temperatures. Coolsies. And now we get a really ugly looking yellow tint-ish color for our suit. Whoopee. No, really, I think this is honestly, like, if I had to make a ranking system for, like, worst looking suits in the series, the Varia Suit version of the Fusion suit would probably have to be the worst one. Like, it doesn't look too bad from an angle, mostly because of the shadowing and lighting effects of the suit that kind of make it appear to be more of a purplish color. But when you actually look at it front and center, and you see, like, how it's, you know, completely yellow with a hint of pink, I don't know, those colors just don't go together, I find. It's just really, really atrocious looking. I'm sorry. But yeah, now we can absorb X-Parasites. Well, I mean, Ice X-Parasites. What am I saying? Oh my god. Alright, this is why I don't record too many video sessions at a time. But yeah, I like how the behavior of the Ice X-Parasites change, you know? So, beforehand, they were pretty aggressive, right? Like, these guys weren't afraid to go after us and attack us, you know, unlike the other X-Parasites we've fought so far, you know? But then when you run into them a second time, it's like, oh shit! She's got the tools to combat us now. Run! And I think that's a pretty cool, like, attention to detail. Like, they have all those X-Parasites just thinking, oh shit, we get to, you know, go all out on her. And you absorb like 10 or so different Ice X-Parasites at a time. And then you come back and it's like, well, I guess we can probably back out of this situation now. I don't know. I know it's subtle, but I love like little subtle shit like that, you know? It really tells you that the kind of tools you have into play and the whole idea of getting stronger is not only something that affects your range of survivability and exploring different sectors, it most clearly has an effect on like the other enemies and antagonists that you're facing as well. And it's just, it's clever as shit, man. I love that crap so much. So yeah, now that we have the Varia Suit, we can come into here without much issue. And... oh! Well, shit. Yeah, definitely want to look out for those. Because now apparently even missile tanks can be copied by X-Parasites, I'm assuming. I wonder if that's like what had actually happened. Like maybe they copied some lone missile tank off in the distance or something and made a creature out of that, or there really were like clone missile tanks and they just happened to copy them. I'm trying to like establish like a headcanon for this, and I'm thinking way too hard on this subject for some reason. Oh, hey, that one gave us a red X parasite. I swear, I almost never see that happen outside of very specific enemies. That's so weird. I wonder if that's an RPG or RNG multiplier that applies to literally every enemy, or if it's just that one specifically. Because I swear, I've played this game for years. 16 years to be exact, and like, I didn't even know those things could spawn red X parasites. I don't know. Unless the X have the ability to process data organically. That could have something to do with their intelligence, but that's taking it a bit of a step further, wouldn't you say? Well, that's good. But you still need to stay the fuck away from it. Wait, how do you know this? It's like, nah, you should just do that instead. See, I kind of like this. Like, again, the whole thing about Metroids being, you know, vulnerable to ice not only comes into play with, you know, different plot exposition points, but it's also kind of coming into play with the kind of restrictions it brings to the table with what Samus can and cannot have. So, our workaround here is the kick-ass ice missiles. Which is kind of funny because we just got the super missiles like one sector ago, and now we're already being told to go get new missiles altogether. Like, I don't know, I really like the super missiles. I like the extra firepower because, like, the thing with the ice missiles is that since it pretty much guarantees a freeze upon contact with whatever enemy you hit it with, it's like, now you have to deal an additional unit of damage because you have to deal with that freeze effect. And I know it's not something that applies to bosses technically because it's not like you can freeze them, but it's a little nitpick, I guess. But I like the idea. They wanted to change things up, and I can respect that. Fusion does indeed have a few new upgrades that weren't present in Super Metroid, but it's pretty minimal, if I'm going to be honest. I think Ice Missile happens to be one of those only 3 or so exceptions. Like, I'm being dead serious. And that's only because they had to find some kind of, like, workaround in the plot for it to work. Yeah. But that's not gonna be a big issue, right? Because we have access to all of the sectors. So it's like, whatever. I mean, we let them into all of the sectors, right? What could go wrong? It's not like we can cause any more damage than usual, right? Right? I thought I was about to start up a speed booster for a second. Out of my way. I wanted that. Damn it. Okay, so the reason we couldn't come into this sector beforehand was because of the fact that we had what's it? We didn't have the Varia Suit on hand, but now that we do, and we have a bit of a resistance to cold as of now, we can explore Sector 5 as we choose, so long as we have the proper upgrades to get through certain, well, you know, artificial block points and shit. I'm trying to think of stuff to talk about. I'm not a very good conversation initiator. and cold it is indeed. I don't even think somebody like me would do well in this kind of temperature. But then again, I don't really have a tolerance for cold because, go figure, I live in Florida, where snow is basically nothing more than an afterthought. Because it doesn't exist here, get it? Boy, I'd sure love to have a new beam on hand, because this charge shot isn't doing me many favors. Oh yeah, and get used to Sector 5, by the way, because I don't know what it is with Sector 5 in particular, because, like, a pattern I've noticed with every sector in the game is that you visit them at least twice. But Sector 5 is, like, literally the only exception to the rule. Whereas you visit this place not 2, but 3 times. And I don't know how on earth they got that, you know, line of logic to work when, you know, it didn't apply to every other sector, but whatever. Gotta break what would be a consistent pattern otherwise to make the players be suspended in disbelief of there ever being a pattern, I suppose. But who am I kidding? Oh wait, we can't do anything here. Actually, now that I think about it, shouldn't I bomb this? Yeah. And yeah, I feel like the yellow hatches in particular happen to be the most pointless ones I find, because I feel like the yellow hatches are only ever present in, you know, Sector 5. The level 4 hatches, on the other hand, we'll get to talking about that in a more relevant fashion once that happens. There's a reason it's level 4 and not level 3, 2, or 1. You know what I'm saying? Ow. Ow. I actually forgot those projectiles arc that far. Like, that's such a weird-ass arc, I won't lie. Alright, so now that we have the level 3 hatches open up to us now, we can go ahead and get our ice missiles. So say goodbye to your super missiles, because they didn't really play a huge significant role like I thought they would. But I guess they had to squeeze in the super missiles in here otherwise, or somehow or another. I mean, because every Metroid game after Super Metroid's gotta have super missiles, right? Even if it is kind of redundant. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about this too hard. Anywho, we have the ice missiles. They basically work like the ice beam. You just shoot them at enemies and they go frozy. And as usual, you can use them as stepping stones. And we'll be using the ice missile along the way back to solve some puzzles, and those will be fun. Yeah, it's funny, like, you know, even though the ice missile is technically a glorified ice beam in a sense, but with an MO count and more powerful, it's like, I don't know, something about Fusion in particular definitely makes more use out of it for puzzles than, you know, every other Metroid game does, I find. Like, and the other Metroid games, like the ice missiles, or ice beam rather, felt kind of superfluous in the sense that, like, you're only really using it to kind of benefit yourself in combat or making, you know, the best out of fancy situations with freezing enemies and such. But in Fusion, it actually becomes an essential part of your kit for solving puzzles and shit. And this right here, and the reason I'm standing right here as it is actually one of those puzzles that I was referring to. And probably one of the best puzzles in the series. So as we know, X-Parasites can spawn different enemies on the go, depending on their positioning on where they land out in the background. And what's really cool about this puzzle is that you have to pick and choose which enemies you have to fight, and then, like, figure out what X-Parasites you need to let live or die. in order to come up here and get this missile tank. And I'm like, god damn, that's pretty fucking clever. Granted, most of that stuff is kind of reserved almost strictly for, you know, the expansions and shit. But, you know, a lot of what the story does make out of these similar puzzles ain't half bad either. Like, watch. We gotta kill off this enemy. And we need to kill off another enemy because it didn't go straight for that thing. And it's all about, like, knowing, like, whether or not this enemy is going to be beneficial for making the best out of, like, this room to defeat this thing, or freeze it, rather. You know what I'm saying? Like, you saw in that previous room that, obviously, when an X-Parasite came and made a bigger deal out of this thing than we thought it would, it turned into that abomination. So, we know for a fact that we can use X-Parasites to turn this thing into a hideous monstrosity. And I think that's really cool. I like how they use basically what's considered like the ammo reserves or energy pickups into like an actual puzzle piece. And I'm mentioning this now because like I feel like Sector 5 is when that puzzle starts coming into play, and Fusion definitely does a pretty good job at utilizing those kind of said puzzle pieces for, like, it's like a case of, okay, so we obviously cannot kill whatever we see in sight, right? So we need to pick and choose which X-Parasites we need to let live or die, and see what enemies we do need to beat in order to make progress to the next room. You know what I'm saying? And it just becomes this continuous train of thought the further you go. Especially now that we have the ice missiles on tow, basically. But yeah, I've got nothing. Just heading back, and suddenly there's a creepy monster-looking thing floating around in the background. I wonder if that's foreshadowing to any degree. Oh! Well, that was sudden. I love how this comes out of, like, left field, too. Like, goddamn, I thought I was just heading back from a casual mission to get another upgrade, and then suddenly this happens. Damn it, game, you're taking me for a trip. Oh! Man, those X-Parasites really do mean business. I guess just invading sectors wasn't their only line of priority here. Yeah, they're aiming to just destroy the hell out of this fucking station. Yeah. God damn. They really do mean business. They just keep causing trouble for us left and right. Hopefully it doesn't get worse, right? Huh? Oh yeah, and we're on a timer, by the way. Because every Metroid game needs one. Alright, so our mission here is to get to the end point, but this time we have something causing that tension to push us towards that goal. So, yeah, I better hope you memorize your speed booster routes here, because they're going to be very beneficial for getting to the end game goal here for this Sector 3 objectively as cleanly as possible, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I can't talk. I might actually take a break after this recording, I'm not gonna lie. And man, I love this music piece, dude. I haven't really given enough credit to Fusion's soundtrack, but man, whenever there's tension, like in the air, or something that just feels off about the present situation, Fusion knows exactly what kind of pieces it needs to pick out for said situation. And this is actually one of my favorite music tracks in the game, if I'm going to be real here. Like, if I were to make a fan game, and I made, like, I don't know, some kind of crazy escape, like, like scenario or something. I don't know, something that's filled with high tension or another. I'd definitely make a song that's reminiscent of something like this. It's just that good, man. And now that we have ice beams, or ice missiles rather, God, really has been a while since I played this, huh? We need to use these things to our best effect. For all of these puzzles and shit. And as quickly and efficiently as possible. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of points here on the way there that's going to require a lot of precision. And not only where you shoot your ice missiles and place them, but also where you shoot and make sure you don't accidentally crumble something that could potentially cause you to fall into the lava and then waste a minute or so getting out of it. Gotta be extra careful, fam. Luckily, I've played this game a million times, so getting to the end here doesn't exactly concern me. But now that I think about it, though, I don't think I've ever actually failed this segment before, even in my first playthrough of the game. I'm actually kind of curious as to what it would look like if I did fail this whole sequence or whatever. I don't know why, in all of the 16 years I've played this, I'm just now questioning this, and I couldn't have just done this in my own spare time and just looked it up or something. Or maybe I tried, but I couldn't find it on YouTube for some reason. It's one of those things, I guess, that people just weren't that curious enough to find out about, I suppose. But yeah, that only took us like, what, 2.5 minutes? Not bad when you know what you're doing. Oh, hey! There's a human. What the flood are you doing? Oh. Oh. Hey, and this Corex is a little bit different. Haven't seen this thing since the Charged Beam Core. About fucking time, game. Make my beam useful again, darn it. And yeah, instead of the Spazer Beam, we get the Wide Beam, which might as well be the same beam, but with a different coat of paint, basically. Again, like, for the stuff that's technically new, it might as well be redundant because it's already reminiscent of a different upgrade from, like, previous games, basically. I don't know why they felt the need to get rid of the Spazer, though, and just replace it for this. Like, wouldn't it have been the same thing if he just did, like, the Spazer or something? I don't fucking know. No one knows. Neither who, we got circles for firepower. God bless circles. And yeah, this beam is pretty goddamn effective. And remember when I said that placing your beam shots count for getting the most out of your maximum damage? Well, that is definitely more relevant than ever because technically we're firing 3 beams at once. And that's going to apply to not just this beam, but every other beam we're going to be getting after this because it stacks. Just like it did in Super Metroid. Huzzah. Though what's kind of unfortunate though is that, like, unlike Super, and a lot of people complain about this, and I can sort of see why people complain about this, but not really. But in this game, in Super Metroid, basically, whenever you got new beams and upgrades, you can choose whether or not you can turn them off. And some people actually found that kind of useful in situations like, say with the high jumps, for example. Like, you were going through this narrow room filled with spikes and shit, and you didn't want to accidentally jump too high moving through a room. Or hell, you just wanted to go through the room using better aerial mobility because you could jump lower without having high jump boots. Or you can switch out beams and have it to where you have the option of like having 3 shots at a time or 2 shots at a time with the Spazer or plasma beam respectively, or choose whether or not you want to have an ice effect on it, like with the ice beam being on or off, for instance. In this game, however, I guess because the ice beam isn't prevalent, and I guess they saw it as a redundant sort of thing, or whatever, beams no longer can be turned on or off, and this applies to everything you get from this point forward. Everything stacks, and you just kind of have to deal with it, basically. Like, I don't know, I've never been the super nitpicky type to, like, you know, complain about these things so long as they don't get in the way of my enjoyment of the game. And quite frankly, they don't. Like, that was honestly something I saw as just really novel and not much else, really. Like, because for the most part, like, other than you know, the high jump boots as an example of what I mentioned earlier. Swapping things in and out just kind of felt superfluous anyway, I find. And it's not like you're going to be doing it a whole lot as it is. I mean, because, like, why wouldn't you want the wave beam effects, dude? Why wouldn't you want the charge beam effect? Unless you were doing a challenge run or something. But in that case, why are you getting the charge shot in the first place? Why would I not want to have the plasma beam on? You know, you see what I'm saying? It's just like, these effects are more beneficial than not to not have an effect, you know, outside of the ice beam in some situations, I suppose, which does kind of end up being somewhat of an issue in Zero Mission that does kind of get resolved in an interesting way whenever Samus Returns comes to mind. But yeah, I can kind of see the argument, but at the same time, not really. It just kind of feels superfluous. What can I really say? Oh. The X can absorb the memories and knowledge of their prey. Well, that explains a lot as for how they figured out how to do something like this in the first place. So the X parasites mostly gain their knowledge through absorbing other things. They don't come with this intimate knowledge. And I feel like that's kind of the whole motivation behind why the X are doing what they're doing. Like, in a way, they are kind of mindless when you think about it. Their quest for hunger is more so a quest for knowledge, in order to find ways to continually fuck things up, basically. And I think the knowledge part of this is all just sort of a byproduct of their end game goal here. But it also kind of raises the question, when they absorb like the crew members and shit, and all these other creatures that died, does the knowledge of like other creatures that get killed off, or their brethren that get killed off whatsoever, come to mind whenever they're seeing Samus and running away, like with the Ice X Parasites with Sector 6, for instance? See, like, this is why I love Metroid Fusion's narrative so much, because the X Parasites have this interesting endgame goal in mind that you can kind of interpret what they're doing in so many different ways. And, you know, a lot of these, like, hypotheses, you know, theories or whatever, can all, you know, make sense when you really think about it, you know? It's one piece of the puzzle after another. So now that we've, you know, made it to the halfway point of the game, no, I'm dead serious, I think we're already at the halfway point of the game. We can go back to the main deck and see if we can find any survivors that we perhaps missed on our previous trip. There, at the start of the game. So, let's actually check out that hole in the wall that the SAX or whatever blew up. And, oh, okay. There was just a missile tank here, and that was about it, I guess. And how did the SAX get here in the first place? Can they move? Can the SAX move through walls? Like when they're in like another host creatures? Like can the X parasites like drop whatever host they're in and just move towards something else without being killed? I actually kind of wondered that, to be honest. And yeah, this was something I kind of like neglected to talk about back in part 1 because I was too busy talking about something else, but there's Ridley. Are you happy now? Also, that music felt really unsettling. Again, when something is off about the atmosphere of the present situation, Fusion knows exactly what kind of piece to play for that given point in time. You know what I'm saying? And just I love that music track too, because it's so chilling, you know? It's one of those songs that make you question, God damn, I really fought this thing at one point. Would I actually have to fight something like that again? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Anywho, I recorded way too long for today. What can I say? I'm a little bit burnt out for recording sessions today. So, anywho, next time on Metroid Fusion, we're going to go up to the habitational deck and see if we can find any survivors that weren't infected by the X-Parasites already. So see you guys then.